Hello, my darling. We are going to go over metaphorical relationships once again. So the official metaphorical relationship is it's the connection between two items that have been compared. The connection between two items that have been compared. And basically what this means is that when you have a metaphor, there's a connection between the two things. So if I said her eyes glowed, that means that her eyes have a light within them. And the trick is, do they glow like the sun? Do they glow like a light bulb? Do they glow like a firefly? So the tricky part of metaphorical relationships is, first of all, figuring out what it's compared to. What are those two objects? And then how are they connected? So in this passage here, I highlighted a few lines, and we got to see what the fire is compared to. Small flames stirred at the trunk of a tree and crawled away through leaves and brushwood. So automatically we're thinking of things that crawl. It could be a baby right now. It could be a worm. All those things we tend to think of as crawling. We're going to have to keep looking at all the other stuff and see if other ones support this idea of whatever this is. One patch touched a tree trunk and scrambled up like a bright squirrel. So here we have a simile. One patch of the fire is a bright squirrel. The squirrel, which is here, leapt on the wings of the wind and clung to another standing tree, eating downwards. So he's talking about how this fire and this squirrel have something in common, and that's the way they go from tree to tree, from crawling up and down the trees. The flames, as though they were a kind of wildlife, crept as a jaguar creeps on its belly toward a line of birch-like saplings that fledged on an outcrop of pink rock. So now the flame has stopped being a squirrel and it's become a jaguar. The heart of the flame leapt nimbly across the gap. So again, it's leaping nimbly. Animals leap. We tend to think of big tigers leaping. Across the gap between the trees, and then went swinging and flaring. So now it's swinging from tree to tree, and one would imagine that one would try to picture some sort of animal that swings, and that tends to be monkeys. So, among other things. So what we're looking at here is that consistently Golding compares this fire to animals, and increasingly bigger animals. Here it sounds like some sort of rodent, then it becomes a squirrel, then it becomes a jaguar, and then it becomes something that swings, which tends to be slightly bigger. So the fire is animals, it's compared to different animals, and the connection is they both move similar, meaning they crawl, leap, creep. So this is the metaphorical relationship. Fire to animals, and also their connection, how are they similar, is that they both move similarly. They crawl, they leap, they creep, they both move through the air. Now, another way you got to think about this is on a deeper level. What else do they have in common besides the way they move? Because this is how Golding tells us, but there's more to it. Why choose an animal as opposed to comparing the fire to hell? Or why choose an animal as opposed to comparing the fire to war? Well, Here he's also playing up themes, and a lot of times these metaphorical relationships will also play up themes. Here the theme is that this fire is very dangerous, just like wild animals. It's also very wild and savage. And so Golding, if he just compared it to hell, we would be looking at evilness and corruption, but because he's comparing it to animals, we're looking for people becoming savages, people, the loss of humanity, the loss of what makes people people. So that plays into that this fire was set by people and it's very animal-like. So we're going to see that, as you know, again and again throughout the book. What's tricky about these long sections is there's a lot of other stuff he talks about. He talks about the boys cheering and drum rolls. So sometimes it's a matter, if you just look at one simile, at one metaphor, and see the drum roll, you would say, well, he's comparing this to war. But if you look at the other things and take it as a whole, you're going to see that there's a much more stronger focus on animals. That doesn't mean it's a 100% focus, because he's got a lot of other things. There's smoke rolling, there's drum rolls, there's canopies, which could be circus-like. But if you only focus on one metaphor, if you only look at crawl, you could say it's like a baby. But because we take it in along with other things, we're able to figure out that it's animals. So as you go through this, make sure that you are looking at the passage as a whole. You're being thorough in highlighting, and you're looking for trends. It's probably never going to be 100%, but make sure that you're looking for trends. Take a look at how they're similar, and make sure you think very deeply about how are they similar. What else do they have in common? It's not enough to say, because they both move like that. Well, they're also both very dangerous. They're also very wild and savage. So it's important to take this metaphorical relationship and connect it to the story and its themes as a whole. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, please let me know.